Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to our Cabinet meeting. My name is Councillor Simon Hennig. I'm leader of Durham County Council and chair of this meeting. This meeting is taking place on Wednesday the 16th of September and is being recorded live to the Council's website. It will be available to be viewed for a minimum of 6 months. Please be aware that any footage from the meeting can be used in subsequent media broadcasts. I would like to give a warm welcome to members, officers and any members of the public or media who are watching this live feed this morning. Before I commence with the formal business on the agenda, I would like to cover some of the housekeeping issues for us all to follow. For those participating in the meeting, if you could please only speak when invited to speak by myself as chair. Keep your microphone on mute at all times unless invited to speak. If you do wish to speak, please type RTS in the chat function, which will indicate that you want to speak, but please bear in mind that all participants can see the messages in the chat function. Once invited to speak, please introduce yourself with your name and position, unless you have already introduced yourself earlier in the meeting. If you are having any issues with connectivity, try switching off your video and just use the audio function. If connectivity issues continue, you may need to leave the meeting and rejoin to get a better signal. And just to say, if I lose my connection, then please note that Councillor Alan Napier, Deputy Leader of the Council, will take over in my absence until connection is restored. So before I move on to the formal business on the agenda, I can confirm we have received apologies this morning from Councillor Joy Allen. And all other members of the Cabinet are present. If I can turn then to the agenda, item 1 is public questions. I understand that no questions were submitted in advance of the meeting, and in accordance with procedural rules, therefore there are no questions for this part of the meeting. If I can turn to item 2, the minutes. Can I have a mover and seconder, please, to the minutes of the Cabinet meeting from July 2020? Councillor Napier.
Move the minutes, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Marshall.
Formally second them, Chair.
Thank you very much. If we can agree the minutes, if there's any dissent, please indicate you wish to speak through the chat function.
Agree the minutes, Chair.
Thank you. No indications have been received. I therefore can confirm the minutes are agreed. If we can move to item number 3 on the agenda, declarations of interest. If I can ask then for declarations of interest from members. Councillor Hovels, please.
Yeah, I'd like to put on record my declaration of interest. My great-granddaughter started the Bluebell Nursery School, which is on the agenda under item 10.
Thank you. And Councillor Stevens.
Under item 11, Chairman, Weardale Railway, I'm declaring an interest. I'm a board member on the Weardale Railway.
Thank you very much. So if we can move on then to the substantive items on the agenda. Item 4 is Council Plan 2020 to 2023. And if I can ask John Hewitt, Corporate Director of Resources, to introduce this report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. John Hewitt, Corporate Director Resources for Durham County Council. Good morning, members. This report sets out the Council Plan for 2022-2023 and is the Council's contribution to achieving the objectives that are set out in the wider partnership vision. The plan is supported by a number of corporate strategies and plans and is focused on 3 ambitions as set out in the document. And they are more and better jobs, people living long and independent lives, and well-connected communities. There is also a 4th ambition which is set out in the document, which is an excellent council, and this ambition underpins the 3 previous ambitions that have been set out. The plan also sets out the review of equality objectives that have been undertaken and the new equality policy which is now in place, and this is set out at Appendix 3 of the report. And just some highlights from the plan to set out for Cabinet. On page 39, this recaps how the County Durham vision was developed, the consultation that took place and the context for the plan that is presented to Cabinet today. Page 40 sets out the planning assumptions that have been made and particularly how COVID-19 will impact on the council and local communities and partners over the next 3 years. And page 41 highlights the impact of the European Union, Brexit, and the impact of the Shared Prosperity Fund when this is known going forward. Chair, this is a comprehensive plan. It sets out the Council's priorities over the next 3 years and those important links with the partnership vision. Cabinet is asked to agree the plan and the revised equality policy and recommend the plan for approval by Council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. If I can speak to this item, I'm very pleased to be able to move the recommendations in paragraph 7. The council plan is an important document and details Durham County Council's contribution towards achieving the objectives which are set out in the County Durham vision. Both are structured around 3 key ambitions which were developed following extensive public consultation, and those are more and better jobs, long and independent lives, and communities well connected and supportive of each other, to which a fourth, as we've heard, an excellent council has been developed. The plan is very much based around these key ambitions and what we are doing as a council to deliver them. It also includes the council response to COVID-19, actions which are ongoing. The plan includes a key programme of work moving forward, which is both detailed and comprehensive across all areas. The report also, as we've heard, includes Durham County Council's Equality Policy 2020. I commend this report and move the recommendations. Councillor Napier.
Thank you, Chairman. Morning, everyone. I'm Alan Napier. I'm the Deputy Leader of the Council. I also have the finance portfolio within the Cabinet. As we enter what are undoubtedly going to be very difficult times for our local communities and businesses, it is important that we have a plan that reflects our wider partnership vision, but which focuses on what the Council will do over the coming years to improve the lives of people in County Durham. The coronavirus has highlighted, if it ever needed highlighting, what local authorities are very good at, understanding their local communities and being able to provide services to them that make a difference. Our council plan sets out how we will continue to make a difference over the coming years and how this council will be at the heart of the recovery of our local communities. The plan has been updated to reflect the response and recovery work related to coronavirus. However, our ambitions remain true to what we have always believed in as a Labour-run council, working hard to ensure that there are more and better paid jobs, helping people to live in long and independent lives, and ensuring our communities are supported and supportive of each other. Of course, there are many priorities that sit behind our ambitions, such as ensuring the best education is available for our young people, that opportunities for learning exist for everyone who wants to learn, working hard to reduce and remove poverty, and improving prosperity for everyone. The challenge that lies ahead is enormous. Let us hope that the government do understand the vital role that this council has to play in leading our communities and businesses out of the coronavirus crisis. Chairman, this is an excellent plan and I'm happy to second the recommendations as set out.
Thank you. If I can now ask others if they wish to come in. Councillor Surtees.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the Council Plan is an excellent document and it is very people focused. The Equality and Diversity Policy forms part of the appendices of the Council Plan, and it's a policy that often goes unnoticed, however forms a huge part of the Council's day-to-day activities and is at the heart of the Council's vision and core values. We recognise that people can face barriers and inequality affects different people and communities in different ways. Our equality and diversity policy is to treat people fairly and with dignity and respect. Our new equality policy has been developed to highlight our commitment to equality and inclusion and includes 3 new equality objectives which are aligned to the Council Plan. One is to improve employment opportunities for disabled people, build inclusive communities and build an inclusive and welcoming staff and employee culture. These objectives allow us to focus attention to specific areas and are underpinned by action plans and monitoring, all of which allow us to drive inclusion both in our communities and our workforce. It is also important to note that the 2 externally facing objectives relating to inclusion and employment are based on extensive consultation carried out in developing the County Durham vision. The third objective of building an inclusive staff culture is based on the excellent council theme of the draft council plan. The policy also provides a snapshot of some of the work which we currently do and will build upon to improve diversity, inclusion and demonstrate our continued commitment going forward. Chair, I welcome the council plan as it demonstrates an inclusive culture across our communities and workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Surtees. Councillor Patterson, you've indicated you want to come in.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Andrea Patterson, Cabinet Member for Corporate Services and Rural Issues. Chair, I'd just like to support the council plan. This plan, for me, just demonstrates what a proactive, forward-thinking, innovative council Durham County Council is. Looking ahead, it's very clear that our local communities and businesses are going to face many challenges, and this plan sets out how the council will work with partners as we look to recover from coronavirus. Our digital strategy, which we introduced last year, has enabled us to improve connectivity right across the county, and some excellent work has been completed through our Digital Durham programme. There's more to do, but we're very well placed to lead on connectivity improvements across the county and the wider region. Chair, I'd also like to just mention our rural communities, because it's extremely important that as we move forward into recovery, that our rural communities are at the forefront of our minds. I'm pleased to inform Cabinet this morning that the corporate plan has been rural proofed, and we will continue to ensure that any strategies and policies that we consider do take account of our rural communities. Chair, I wasn't sure if Councillor Napier was seconds the plan or moving the plan, but I'm happy to second the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. If there's nobody else who wishes to come in, the report has been moved and seconded. If there is any dissent, please indicate you wish to speak or do that through the chat function. No indications have been received, therefore is that report agreed?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you very much. We'll move on then on the agenda to item number 5, selective licensing scheme. We have had a request to ask a question from Councillor Owen Temple on this item. So in a moment, I'm going to ask Amy Harhoff, Corporate Director of Regeneration, Economy and Growth, to introduce the report. I will then ask Councillor Temple to ask your question before asking the relevant Cabinet member to respond. So if I can then ask Amy Harhoff, please, to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Amy Harhoff, Corporate Director of Regeneration, Economy and Growth. This report for a selective licensing proposal in County Durham follows an earlier report to Cabinet which set out a proposal to consult on a selective licensing scheme for the county, and has been supported by a robust technical assessment which follows the National Government guidance for selective licensing schemes, as well as taking account of the broader public engagement. The scheme proposes to cover a 42% of private rented stock in County Durham, and because this scheme is over 20%, the County Council would need to make an application to the Secretary of State for that scheme. The reasons for the scheme and strategic objectives are set out in this report, but I'll just briefly highlight some of the key points to the report for consideration. So County Durham has over 68,000 homes in the county that are part of private rented stock. That's significantly above the national average at over 28%, where we would expect to see under 28% if County Durham were in line with the national average. Because of that number, we do see a number of challenges in the county where we believe the policies and enforcement procedures that are covered within a selective licensing proposal will allow the County Council, working with partners, to address some of the challenges created in some areas across the county as a result of significant issues such as empty properties and antisocial behaviour. One of the key components of the scheme and of significant interest is around the charging for the scheme. County Durham Council is proposing that the scheme is at a cost of £500 for a 5-year cover. That we believe is one of the lowest numbers nationally, and in reflecting some of the feedback from the public consultation, we are also proposing that that fee would reduce to £350 for landlords that, for example, meet other criteria such as being accredited through the relevant housing and landlord associations. The other thing to highlight in the report that any of the fees are then ring-fenced to the delivery of the scheme, and we would propose that the scheme would be a phased delivery. Subsequent to the proposal being supported today, the next phase for the County Council would be to make a proposal to the Secretary of State, who would consider the scheme, and then from there, subject to the scheme being successful, the scheme would then commence a phased implementation across the county. The 42% scheme would cover approximately 30,000 homes across different areas of the county. I'll stop there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Amy. Can I then ask Councillor Owen Temple, please, to ask your question?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Owen Temple from Consett. Can I at the outset declare an interest in the report, in that I currently, though not for long, own a property which is let? And also, can I acknowledge that the great improvement in this scheme as a result of the consultation, by becoming more focused through using the much more focused lower super output areas rather than the broader middle super output areas. So my question, though, it relates to another problem I have with this report, which is the statistics that are used in it. Cabinet will be aware that there's a very large difference between the Office for National Statistics latest estimate of the private rented sector in Durham, which stands at 19.5%, and the County Durham Council models estimate used in this report, which stands at 28.4%, massively bigger. This discrepancy is of particular significance where areas are proposed for designation solely on grounds of deprivation, because the regulations require that such an area has a higher proportion of PRS properties than the national average, and the national average used is based on Office for National Statistics methodology. So how is the Council intending to convince the Secretary of State that the Office for National Statistics has got its numbers wrong and that County Durham is right? And because the county's chosen to use its own algorithm rather than using the Office for National Statistics methodology, is it not risking a rejection of the whole scheme on the grounds of the unreliability of the figures used? I mean, I think we all know the problems that were caused by the last mutant algorithm, and I wouldn't want this council to run into them in this case.
Thank you, Councillor Temple. Can I ask Councillor Kevin Shaw, please, who's the Cabinet Portfolio Holder for Strategic Housing and Assets, to respond to your question? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank Councillor Temple for the question. The Office of National Statistics provided estimated tenure numbers in 2018 based on a methodology partly using the 2011 census data, and it supplements it using social survey data, which is the annual population survey. As this data is sampled and also an estimate, we do not intend to advise the Secretary of State that the alternative ONS method is wrong. Instead, we'll be putting forward our robust and confident estimate of the private rented sector in County Durham. Given that the next census is not due until spring 2021, with results available from mid-2022, a modelling process was used which we believe is current and informed for County Durham, placing the PRS in our area above the 19.46 national estimate for the private rented sector. The tenure intelligence uses a wide range of data to spot trends at the property level and is used in combination with expert housing knowledge to predict the defined outcome at the property level, using council and externally sourced data. This data approximately covers the last 5 consecutive years. It is important to note that the Office of National Statistics data cannot be provided at sub-county level, a fact acknowledged by the Secretary of State in accepting local authorities' data for each selective licensing area at submission. I can therefore assure Councillor Temple that we are in continuous dialogue with civil servants from Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, that our methodology is in line with successful submissions and is the only way in which we can focus on the areas where selective licensing is required and in meeting the government criteria. Thank you again, Councillor Temple, for your question.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw, and also from myself, thanks to Councillor Temple for asking that question. Councillor Shaw, would you like now to move on to speak to the reports?
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to be moving this report proposing a scheme which aims to drive up standards in the private housing sector and improve communities across County Durham, and provide confidence to all of our residents in those streets that may have been impacted by poor management practices. Everyone in County Durham should have the right to a safe and decent home, and every resident should have the confidence they live in a peaceful and safe street. That is what selective licensing will bring. It is a key objective of our housing strategy 2019 to 2024 to help create long-term sustainable neighbourhoods by ensuring that any private rented property is in good condition and well managed, protecting both residents and tenants alike. The private rented sector in County Durham is increasing significantly, with all but 2 areas seeing an increase of over 40% since 2011. Selective licensing focuses on areas of concern with regard to matters including antisocial behaviour, poor housing conditions, low demand and high levels of deprivation. Following extensive consultation, receiving over 1,700 comments and questionnaires, we've made further changes. And these changes, we believe, makes a more robust and compliant scheme, which not only will resolve many of the issues we've identified, but takes into account issues raised by landlords and residents. I believe this is the start of a process where we will continue to monitor both the scheme and the rest of the county in terms of meeting the objectives and improving our areas. I see an important role for overview and scrutiny in regard to assisting in understanding the scheme, how it is managed, and if indeed other areas need to be considered going forward. Whilst our ambition was to see the whole county covered by working alongside partners in government, I believe that the scale of the scheme, as is to be submitted with over 42% of the private sector stock and approximately 30,000 homes, will make a considerable improvement to many of our communities across the county. A selective licensing scheme will assist us greatly to improve housing across the county and improve problem areas and bring those areas back to places where people wish to live, which are amongst the key priorities for the Council, and I therefore recommend this report for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shaw. If I could then have a seconder to the report, please. Councillor Marshall.
Thanks, Chair. And could I start by thanking everybody who have fed into the extensive consultation exercise that's been carried out on this through quite unprecedented times, and to Councillor Shaw and the team for bringing forward such a comprehensive report this morning. Chair, the Council's vision for 2035 is for this county to be a place where there are more and better jobs, people live longer and more independent lives, and our communities are well connected and supportive of each other. I think the proposal for a selective licence scheme across the county supports us in realising that ambition for our communities. We're focusing more on local communities and ensuring they have the right ingredients for all of our residents to meet their full potential. Having a safe and healthy home should be a basic right for everyone, and one that many of us take for granted. And I'm delighted that we have responded to the concerns raised right across the county in proposing such a proactive and positive response. And therefore, I'm happy to second the proposals outlined in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. If I could then ask if there's anybody else wishing to speak. Councillor Hovels.
Thank you, Chair. And just for the people who are watching this live feed, that I'm Councillor Hovels and I have the responsibility for the portfolio for health and community safety. And I think this particular report that we're discussing this morning affects both of those areas. The scheme will benefit from the close partner workmanship that we have, not only with our external partners, but internally with other council departments. The Safe Durham Partnership, again, have discussed this issue, and it's made up of, as people may know, it's made up of the police, the fire service, probation service, other housing providers, and the people have spoke to welcome the proposal. They think it gives the partners and ourselves another tool in the box to tackle some of the problems that we all encounter within our local communities. And I'm sure this scheme will be welcomed by the good landlords. I think the difficulty will be bringing the bad landlords on board, and we all know where they are within our local communities. As councillors, we work on the ground, we walk our streets, and if this can make a difference to some of the problems we have and tackle some of them issues, it's got to be a good thing, Chairman. Would be my, and I'm sure the communities would welcome this scheme once it's in place. It's like everything, it'll be new, we'll have to work through it. It will take council resources because obviously there'll be a lot of legal issues come out of it, but it's a start, isn't it? It's a start to the making a difference in our communities, and I think it's got to be welcomed this morning, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hovels. If there's nobody else who wishes to speak on this report, if we can move to agreeing the report and recommendations. If there is any dissent, can you please indicate that through the chat function?
Great.
Yeah, can we agree? The report therefore is agreed. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. If we can then move on to the next item on the agenda, it's item 6, forecast of revenue and capital outturn 2020-21, period to 30th of June 2020, and update on progress towards achieving MTFP 10 savings. If I can ask John Hewitt, Corporate Director of Resources, to present the report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This report sets out our first estimate of financial outturn for 2021, the current financial year, based on the figures at Q1. I would start by saying to Cabinet that it's a very uncertain time in terms of estimating financial performance and outcomes, particularly because of COVID-19, and would therefore ask Cabinet to note the high level of uncertainty when considering the figures that are set out in the report. In terms of the revenue budget, the report sets out an overspend position, but does note that the impact of the income guarantee scheme that's been set out by government will offset this overspend to some extent. That extent won't be known until the council works through the income guarantee scheme details and submits a claim to government. So we will update on this position at Q2 outturn monitoring. We're also projecting a collection fund deficit of 4.1 million. This will feed into budget setting for 21-22 financial year, and we have been given permission by government to write down the deficit over 3 years if this is required. So there is some further flexibility there around the collection fund deficits. There are a number of other pressures that are outlined in the report, particularly around children's services, as reported last year. That position is continuing to be a significant challenge for the council, and will no doubt be as we move towards setting the 21-22 budget. However, the overspend position as set out is based on a number of assumptions and is likely to change as we refine figures and update the position for Q2. In terms of capital outturn, the figure set out in the report is for a £156 million outturn, with the details set out in the report as to how that figure is being calculated. On the business rates collection fund, we're just setting out in the report that position is compensated through Section 31 grant from government for the retail reliefs that have been received. And finally, the report also sets out that the council has achieved 88% of its 2020-21 savings as at Q1, so a significant proportion of the savings that were agreed in the budget have been achieved by the end of June. So in closing, Chair, a lot of uncertainty is the message from the report. We will reflect on how COVID-19 develops over the coming months and provide a further update at Q2. And the recommendations are set out in paragraph 18.
Thank you, John. I will now move to the report and recommendations, and can I invite Councillor Alan Napier, Deputy Leader of the Council, to speak, please.
Thank you, Chairman. As the Corporate Director of Resources has set out, the South Tern report has been extremely challenging to prepare, given the unprecedented impact of coronavirus in our local communities and the huge impact that this has on funding coming in and out of the local authority. In terms of the revenue budget, the report sets out a projected overspend, although we anticipate this will be mitigated through the income guarantee scheme once we work through the details. It is of course very difficult to predict income and expenditure when we are still unsure of the future. However, the report sets out our best estimate at this time. This will be refined for Q2 outturn. What I can say, Chairman, is that the Council's finances have been exceptionally well managed, which has allowed us to provide significant support in areas such as welfare support, where we are one of the few councils to maintain a scheme, local council tax support, which still provides 100% discounts and support to individuals through our EAPs, which is invaluable for many households. We're also consistently recognised by government as one of the top councils for supporting our local business community, and we have paid out almost 105 million in grants, which is an exceptional effort by all concerned. We have taken a considered approach to people and businesses who have and are struggling to pay their council tax and business rates bills, pointing them to help and assisting them with payment plans where required. There is of course an impact of this on the collection funds that we manage, and this will be considered over the next 3 years as set out in the report. In terms of our capital programme, we are continuing to commit a significant capital programme over the next 4 years of 350 million and are expecting to spend 156 million this year. As part of our capital expenditure plans, we will continue to focus on using local companies and suppliers wherever possible to provide as much support and assistance as possible to locally based businesses. Let us not forget though that before the virus struck, we were 10 years into the government's austerity project and had to make savings of over 8 million in this year alone. In total, have had to save almost £250 million since 2011. We are well on track to achieve our savings for this year, although I hope government has now acknowledged the importance of local government and that it thinks long and hard about handing down further funding cuts to Durham County Council and the people we are here to serve. Finally, Chairman, and John Hewitt's already said this, the watchword from this report is uncertainty. We are still in the dark about the spending review outcomes. We don't know whether we will receive a longer term settlement, and we don't know how our income will be affected going forward. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all officers who have managed the budget with diligence over the past 6 months and kept the council on an even keel. Chairman, not an easy task. I'll move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Can I thank the Director of Resources and Councillor Napier for their speaking to the report this morning, and I'm very happy to second the recommendations in paragraph 18 of the report. As widely reported, the Council has faced significant additional costs and a loss of income as a result of COVID-19. These impacts are detailed in paragraph 35 of the report and total some £43 million. To offset this, the government have provided approximately 38 million of support, 37 million of which is in the current financial year. This leaves a current net overspend, as is the case with councils up and down the country. This is a time of great uncertainty, and the position will, as we've heard, evolve during this year and will continue to be reported in further outturn reports. We will also continue to lobby governments to meet all COVID costs and lost income. With that, I second the recommendations. If I can ask if there's anyone else who wishes to speak on this report. If not, and if there's no dissent through the chat function, can we agree the report and recommendations?
Agreed.
Agreed report recommendations, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We will then move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is Annual Enforcement Programme Children and Young Persons Protection from Tobacco Act 1991 and Antisocial Behaviour Act 2003. If I can ask Alan Patrickson, Corporate Director of Neighbourhoods and Climate Change, to introduce this report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Alan Patrickson, Corporate Director, Neighbourhoods and Climate Change. Chair, this report reviews the activities of the Council in tackling potential harms to young people from the supply and misuse of age-restricted products, particularly under the Children and Young Persons Protection from Tobacco Act, also the Antisocial Behaviour Act and also the Licensing Act. The report also seeks approval for the new enforcement programme for the upcoming year of 2021. The County Council has a statutory responsibility for enforcing age-restricted products, including tobacco, alcohol, aerosol spray paints and a number of other substances. And it has for many years taken a very proactive and partnership approach to tackling the harms, the potential harms and the criminality associated with the illegal supply and the misuse of such products, particularly working in partnership with the Police Harm Reduction Unit, the County Durham Tobacco Alliance, among many others. The activities of 1920 are particularly set out in paragraph 14 of the report. It lists the work of the team, and members will see that we are particularly intelligence-led in the approach, including following up on complaints from members of the public, doing compliance checks on relevant businesses and also test purchases. However, we do continue to seek new avenues to develop sources of community intelligence, and more recently we have added increased levels of market surveillance to help with this work. It's another tool in the toolbox for us. Looking at particularly the work around illicit tobacco, paragraph 18 onwards includes the work that is happening there, and members will see that includes 31 intelligence reports in 1920 that have led to criminal investigations. The outcome of these are listed in paragraph 21 and do include seizures from private dwellings, seizures from commercial properties, and also confiscations under the Proceeds of Crime Act. And in total, we have seized almost 15,000 cigarettes and 41 kilograms of hand-rolling tobacco during this work. Campaigning and education work is an important part of this area. Paragraph 24 focuses on some of the partnership working that we do in this area and highlights in particular the Keep It Out campaign, which has been acting in partnership with Fresh North East, but also many of the other pieces of work that have been ongoing through the County Durham Tobacco Alliance, working with housing providers, our area action partnerships in the voluntary sector, public health and the NHS through smoking cessation services. Under the emerging issues this year and noted in paragraph 30 of the report are new responsibilities, particularly on vendors around the sale of knives and corrosive substances under the Offensive Weapons Act of 2019. Although it's reassuring that incidences of knife crime remain low among young people in County Durham, this is important legislation and it serves to future-proof the ability of our trading standards teams to respond to complaints and address issues that may occur in this area. The proposed priorities for 2020-21 are set out in paragraph 58 and include maintaining the intelligence-led and partnership approach to complaint investigation, increasing market surveillance and maintaining our education and awareness activities. So the recommendations of the report are to note the activity that has occurred during 1920 and the outcomes of that, to approve the proposed approach for 2021 and to note those new responsibilities mentioned under the Offensive Weapons Act of 2019. I'll leave it there, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. If I can now invite Councillor Brian Stevens, Cabinet Portfolio Holder, to speak, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Stevens and I have the portfolio for neighbourhoods and partnerships. Chairman, it's encouraging to hear the excellent work being done by the Community Protection Team in partnership with the police and others to protect our children and most vulnerable people. I support the proposed programme of activities for the year ahead, which will focus on those presenting the greatest risk to our communities. And can I move the report and the recommendations as printed? Thank you.
Thank you. If we can have a seconder to the report, please. Councillor Hovels.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to second the report this morning. As we've already said, health and wellbeing is a key priority for this council, and it's well known that drugs, tobacco is damaging to people's health as well as having links to organised crime. Underage sales put our young people at risk. It's important to report. We all know that smoking is a killer, and it's also a drain on the NHS. The local intelligence really helps in combating some of the dealers that's within our communities. We all know the misery and the devastation that the dealers cause within our communities. I think it'll help to reduce the harm that's being caused. And obviously this morning I'm happy to second the recommendation and the report, and as I say, this report is protecting our residents and our young people, Chair.
Thank you. If there's no one else wishing to speak on this item, if we can move on to agreeing the report and recommendations. Again, if there's any dissent, please indicate through the chat function. If there is none, can we agree the report and recommendations?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We then move on to item 8 on the agenda, which is the Treasury Management Outturn for 2019-20. Again, if I can ask John Hewitt, Corporate Director of Resources, to present this report, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report reviews the Council's Treasury Management position for 2019-20, so this is last financial year, and reporting on the position as at the 31st of March. The borrowing position is shown in paragraph 3, with borrowing totalling 359 million at the end of the financial year, and for the same period investments of 232 million were held by the Council. All investments were made in line with the CIPFA code and relevant government guidance, and I can confirm with Cabinet that all Treasury management indicators have been met and the potential indicators complied with that were set out in the Treasury Management Strategy that was agreed by full Council. There are no exceptional items to report to Cabinet, and the report is for Cabinet to note prior to submission to full Council. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. As you've said, the recommendations in the report are to note. However, before we do this, can I just ask if there's anybody wishing to speak on the reports? If not, then if we can note the report, please.
Note the report, Chair.
You're on mute, Simon.
Excuse me. If we can move on to the next item on the agenda, item 9, that's the Q1 2020-21 Performance Management Reports. Again, if I can ask John Hewitt to present this report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this report is structured around the 3 ambitions within the County Durham Vision and the Council's corporate plan that we discussed earlier, and I'll cover some of the key areas for Cabinet in terms of highlights. So under the More and Better Jobs theme and ambition, the report covers the COVID-19 shock and the fall in GDP nationally, and picks up the expected rise in unemployment, which is expected to double by March 2021. The report also references concerns over welfare and poverty across our communities, particularly in relation to County Durham's position regarding the indices of multiple deprivation that again were referenced earlier in the meeting. On a more positive note, under this ambition, there are details set out of support the Council has provided in relation to business grants and community projects, as well as the planning taking place around economic recovery following and through COVID-19. In terms of long and independent lives, the support provided to the care sector is set out as provided from Durham County Council and its partners, There are concerns over the wider health impact on residents as set out, particularly reduced referrals across social care and elderly people and those with a learning disability, where we've seen demand fall through the COVID crisis. The report also recognises increased pressure on families, but does reference the holiday programmes that the council had in place over the summer period. On connected communities, crime levels have remained relatively static as set out in the report. However, demand for children's social care remained high in 2019-20, and we do have concerns over future demand as we move through COVID-19. We have seen a drop in CO2 output as a result of lockdown and improved air quality, but we have also seen a corresponding reduction in recycling and an increase in general waste as set out in the report. So this is a comprehensive report, Chair. There are many measures of performance set out. That's a snapshot of some of the highlights, and the recommendations are set out in paragraph 10. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. If I may move the report. The performance management report in front of members this morning is again structured around the overriding ambitions of the County Durham vision, alongside the excellent council theme, and a reminder that those three ambitions are more and better jobs, long and independent lives, and connected communities. Clearly, the COVID-19 pandemic has cast a shadow over this most recent period, impacting on many different areas, and that's brought out in the report. Under more and better jobs, it is worth highlighting the increase in numbers in employment in County Durham prior to COVID, a significant rise over the last decade, with many jobs created or safeguarded as a result of Business Durham activity. Currently, many jobs are furloughed in line with national rates. There is great concern currently at what the impact on jobs could be once those schemes end, and I very much support calls to keep Britain working and support our industries and employees. As a council, we've played a full part in helping our local businesses, as we've heard previously, with grant funding, and I thank everyone involved in making those payments so speedily. Meanwhile, we continue to advance our investment plans to bring an additional 30,000 jobs to County Durham, plans now starting to reach fruition across the county, from Jade in the east to Aycliffe and Integra off the A1 and Akeley Heads near the centre of Durham, schemes which will all bring thousands of new jobs which are needed more now than ever. The report also details many other key areas, including children and young people, the health of our residents, adult social care, tackling antisocial behaviour, and keeping our environment safe, clean and tidy. As ever, there are a welter of charts, tables and graphics to highlight all of this data, and I'm very happy to move the recommendation in paragraph 10. Can I ask Councillor Napier, please, to second the report?
Thank you, Chairman. As the lady, you've already covered many of the areas of performance set out in the report, but I would like to focus specifically on employment and jobs. The report starkly sets out the worrying picture of unemployment, which has been massively impacted by coronavirus, projected to double by March 2021. That's a rise to around 27,000 from 14,000 in December 2019. Which is an increase of 13,000 people in our county. These are not just numbers, they are real people who once had a wage to bring home to support their families. The picture could be even worse. Not a day goes by without another company announcing job losses or restructuring plans. It is just as concerning that the impact is more greatly felt across our younger people, where we have seen a 74% increase in universal credit claims across those aged 18 to 24. Whilst we have some of the best support available for those who need help now, we have a huge task ahead of us in bringing in more and better paid jobs. But as we set out in the earlier report on the council plan, that is exactly what we will be focusing on, as well as ensuring we provide education and training opportunities for those who need them. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Napier. If I can now ask if there is anybody else who wishes to speak on this item. We are asked to note the report, so as ever, if there's no dissent, we will note the report. Thank you very much, colleagues. We then move on to item 10 on the agenda.
So, Chairman, I'll leave this meeting now and I will come back in.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hobbles. So if we can then move on to item number 10 on the agenda, maintain schools budget plans and permission to set deficit budgets 2020-21. Again, if I can ask John Hewitt, Corporate Director of Resources, to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. This is the annual report showing the transparent position on the 2021 schools budgets across the county. And importantly, this report highlights those schools that are proposing to set deficit budgets for 2020-21, and the details of those particular schools are set out in paragraph 44 of the report. But in summary, 6 schools are being given permission to set deficit budgets, and further information is being requested from the 2 schools that are outlined in the report prior to reaching agreement on whether deficit budgets will be allowed. The Council does continue to work extremely closely with all of our schools in terms of financial and educational support, and we do offer a service through the Council where financial concerns can be flagged at an early stage from any of our schools across the county. In terms of reserves, schools are budgeting to use approximately £8 million of reserves to set their budgets for 2020-21, which would reduce available school balances to 8.4 million if they were the figures that were eventually used in balancing budgets by the end of the financial year. Chair, there's more detail in the report of the individual schools concerned, but the recommendations are set out in paragraph 12. Thank you.
Thank you, John. If we can now move to the movers and seconder of the report, can I invite Councillor Napier to speak, please?
Thank you, Chairman. As has been set out, this report provides details of our schools' budget setting plans for 2020-21. It is likely that our schools are going to face even more financial pressures over the coming months and years as they look to maintain and improve educational standards against an uncertain and ever-changing world. The schools causing financial concerns have been set out by the Director of Resources, and it is comforting to know that we are working closely with these schools to consider ways they can bring their budget into line. The Council will continue to help and support our schools wherever possible to ensure our children have the best start in life and are provided with the best possible education. But as the report sets out, schools and government bodies need to be financially accountable for their budgets. Chairman, it is pleasing to see a transparent report on the financial position of our schools, and I'm happy to move the recommendations as set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Napier. If we could have a seconder to the report, please, Councillor Gunn.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Alwyn Gunn. I have the portfolio for Children and Young People's Services and Adult Learning and Skills. In seconding this, I want to say that it remains a deep concern to me that we are again talking about school deficit budgets and the challenges some of our schools have in setting a balanced budget. Our head teachers and school staff, their jobs are hard enough without having the worry of trying to make ends meet year after year after year. And they want the best education for the children. And parents want the best education for the children, and that's exactly what we want too as a council. Of course we do. And Cabinet will recall that I've written to education ministers on numerous occasions about school funding. And I will, on behalf of this council, continue to lobby government for a funding settlement that is sustainable and fair. Levelling up should not be about taking resources away from schools that have higher demands. It should be about recognising those demands and funding them properly. And I will continue to press this point, in particular, about fair funding for schools with the government. Chair, of course, it's important that our governing bodies and schools have effective budget management processes in place. And I'm pleased to see that the report sets out the support the council is continuing to provide to ensure budgets are effectively managed and that our children have the best possible opportunities to achieve their potential in County Durham. Chair, this is more important than ever, given that what we've faced over the last 6 months and what we continue to face. I'm happy to second this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gunn. If we can ask if there's anybody else who wants to come in on this report. If not, and again, if I can ask if there's any dissent to indicate that through the chat function. If there isn't, can we agree the report and recommendations?
Agreed.
Great.
Thank you. I can confirm that the report is agreed. Now we need to get Councillor Hovels back into the meeting before we come on to the next item. And I think Councillor Stevens, you need to leave the meeting.
I'm leaving the meeting now, Chairman. Yes.
Thank you.
Chair, and confirm Councillor Hovels has rejoined the meeting.
Thank you. That's very helpful. We then move on to that next item, which is item 11, Weardale Railway request for financial support. We have had a request to ask a question from Councillor Shuttleworth on this item. So I'm going to ask in a minute Amy Harhoff to present the report, and I will then ask Councillor Shuttleworth to ask your question and then ask the relevant Cabinet portfolio holder to respond to that before moving on from there. So if I can then ask Amy Harhoff, Corporate Director of Regeneration, Economy and Growth, to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. As this report sets out, the report is to advise Cabinet on the opportunity for the wider Auckland project, and specifically regarding the Bishop Auckland to Stanhope Heritage Railway line, and in doing so also seeks a capital request for 2.128 million for capital funding, which will be to support essential infrastructure, specifically bridge maintenance and repairs along the Heritage Railway line. And this investment sits as part of a match funding proposal, which is matched with direct investment from the project, and also as part of a wider indirect match funding that's taken place in Bishop Auckland. The full business case is set out in Appendix 2 of this report, which substantiates the request for funding, and sections 23 to 27 of the Cabinet report summarise some of those significant benefits. It's also important to highlight that the proposals around the Auckland project and the railway line sit as part of a much broader master plan for Bishop Auckland, which has been led forward by Durham County Council with its partners across Bishop Auckland. The specific benefits that we would draw Cabinet's attention to around this project relate to particularly the transport, the town centre improvements and the broader visitor economy benefits set out in this report and considered through the particularly challenging times that we face at the moment for the visitor economy as a result of the impacts of COVID. In respect to particularly the financial assurances, section 34 onwards of this report sets out some key criteria to ensure that the Council can manage any real or perceived financial and delivery risk through this capital investment, and will manage that through the terms and conditions of the funding subject to Cabinet's approval. I'll refer the recommendations which are in section 45 of this report, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Amy. Can I then ask Councillor Shuttleworth, please, to ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Councillor John Shuttleworth, Durham County Councillor for Weardale. Can I firstly just give you some background to this, the Weardale Railway, which isn't mentioned in the report. In 1996, the then Economic Development Subcommittee agreed to contribute, together with other organisations, a total of £50,000 to assist in the purchase of the rail net track from Network Rail at that cost of £150,000. In December 2000, Durham County Council agreed to take over the responsibility of the 7 road bridges carrying the highway over the railway, which I spoke against at that time, in that it was creating a future liability for the Council. This should have remained the responsibility of Network Rail in perpetuity, together with the rail line. In April 2006, the Durham County Council, as in the County Durham Development Company, together with Wey Valley District Council, the Regional Development Agency 1 North East, together with Government Office North East, gave a loan of £400,000 to help the company, which was in administration, to pay its creditors. Around 100 businesses at that time got only 25 pence in the pound of what they were owed, and some actually went out of business. One happened to be a building company that lost £75,000. The report before you refers to a further £400,000, of which I'm not aware, being loaned in April 2009. I can't find a report from 2009, and I've also seen that this has been written off. I would like further clarification as it must have been done under delegated powers, which in 2009 would have been deemed to go to Cabinet, full council, and I would suggest therefore this is not legal. I would like Helen Lynch to look at this, please. This council has bailed this failing railway out for over 20 years, and local people feel it's a white elephant which has created a few part-time, low-paid jobs in that period, and little else. Indeed, the residents of Bondi Isle Way in Stanhope have constantly been railroaded by the railway, just doing what they want and never consulting or informing them. We as a council cannot continue bailing a failing railway out to support what I call choo-choo enthusiasts. And if people want to play trains, then it should be done with their own money and not with the public purse, as in the council taxpayer. And my question therefore is, what economic benefits to the local community will they be giving a further £2.18 million to Weardale Railways? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shuttleworth. If I can ask Councillor Carl Marshall, please, as portfolio holder for economic regeneration, to respond to your question.
Yeah, thanks, Simon, and thanks, Councillor Shuttleworth, for part of your question. Obviously, I'll deal with the element that was provided in advance, and I don't know if Helen wants to come back on some of the other stuff at a later date, but I'll chase up a broader response to some of the wider things you've raised there. Obviously, some of the things you're talking about were well before I was even born, so there's a long history to this. But I think the aspirations of the Auckland project in relation to the Weardale Railway are clearly set out in the report and in the appendix to the report, and these are central to the recommendations to support this grant. So in summary, the project as a whole aims to increase the number of visitors to Bishop Auckland by an estimated 160,000 people per year, and this alone will see over 3.2 million being injected into the local economy per year. This builds upon the opportunities that we've been working on with partners and successful bids to the government under the Future High Street Fund and the Stronger Towns Fund. The railway itself will become an important element of a growing network of visitor attractions, including the Castle, a Faith exhibition, Kinrin, the Mine and Art Gallery, the Spanish Gallery, Binchester and others. This quality offer will encourage more out of the region's visitor offer and increase the number of overnight visits to the county. The additional footfall will boost the taking of shops and hospitality businesses in Weardale and in Bishop Auckland and beyond, as visitors go on to explore other parts of the county. The project will provide additional sustainable employment for local people in relation to the management and running of the railway, and will also offer apprenticeships linked to maintenance and construction of rolling stock and engines. There'll also be opportunities for volunteering in a number of areas of railway operation. From an educational perspective, the railway will create an exciting calendar of information events, talks, exhibitions relating to the railway and the wider area, together with literature relating to the heritage line and the natural environment. Importantly, the ambition is also to improve sustainable transport arrangements for the people of Bishop Auckland, Shildon, Weardale and the wider area. This in itself will translate into economic opportunities across our local communities. Importantly, the ambition is also to improve arrangements and connectivity in the south of the county. I think that in itself there'll be huge economic benefits to this, and I'll provide further detail in the as I move the report, Chair, and thank Councillor Shuttleworth again for his question.
Okay, can I also thank Councillor Shuttleworth for your question. Obviously, I note that you've asked there also a question to the legal officer about an earlier event, and I'm sure that Helen Lynch will get back to you in terms of responding to that question, obviously about something that happened in the past. So again, kind of thank Councillor Shuttleworth for your question. Councillor Marshall, would you like to go on to speak to the report, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Marshall, I'm going to come in. Helen has indicated she would like to speak. Sorry to interrupt you. Helen, do you want to just say something now?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. It's just really to confirm what you've just said. My recollection is that there is a report relating to the decision in April 2009, but I will double check and I'll confirm the position and provide a copy of that report to Councillor Shuttleworth and also the Cabinet.
Thank you, Helen. That's much appreciated. My apologies, Councillor Marshall, for cutting you off. If you'd now like to speak to the report, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. The Weardale Railway is an integral part of Durham's industrial heritage. Built in 1842, it originally ran for 25 miles from Bishop Auckland to Wearhead to carry limestone from Eastgate and Weardale and provide passenger services to Weardale. The passenger service ceased in 1953 and freight services continued until 1992. At that time, the line was threatened with closure, but since that date, a heritage steam train attraction has been operating under different guises and ownerships. The report identifies that the Auckland project has, in March this year, purchased the railway and is now seeking authority from the Department of Transport to allow trains to run on the line. We've been provided with a high-level business case which outlines the ambition to protect and successfully develop the heritage asset and deliver a broad range of social and economic outcomes. It aims to attract an additional 160,000 visitors each year to Bishop Auckland and increase the number of overnight stays in the county. This will boost the local economy by an estimated £3.2 million every year, Chair. The development of the railway will add to the existing world-class tourist attractions that I've previously described and will help create additional employment, training and education opportunities for local people and aims to establish a sustainable transport solution for the people of Bishop Auckland, Shildon, Weardale and the wider area. The business case at Appendix 2 provides the full extent of the vision for the Weardale Railway. These plans are even more important now given the context of COVID-19 and the longer term recovery in the county. The railway itself requires investment to carry out a backlog of maintenance repairs to a number of bridges and structures along the line, and a request has been made for the council to provide financial support of just over 2.1 million over the next 3 years to help deliver this longer term vision. The report identifies two options. Firstly, not providing the financial support requested, and this is not recommended as the initiative is able to provide significant economic and regeneration outcomes that I've already mentioned several times this morning. The second option is to provide the funding requested but ensure that the council's investment is protected within a funding agreement. The core elements of the agreement are identified in paragraph 43B and is designed to ensure that the Weardale Railway and its parent company, the Auckland project, commit to delivering against the business plan and provide an undertaking for existing and future maintenance of the line. Chair, it's important that the council is able to support such innovative projects, especially in such difficult times, and I'm delighted to be able to support the recommendations which will protect an important heritage asset at the same time creating economic and social benefits for local residents and the wider community and county. I'm therefore delighted to recommend to move the recommendations outlined in paragraph 14. Thank you.
Thank you. We now need a seconder to the report, please. Councillor Napier.
Thank you, Chairman. The financial implications of the proposal are clearly set out in the report, as are the conditions on which the funding will be provided. The details of the project are being clearly set out, along with the significant benefits this will bring to the local area and the wider county as it develops. Happy to second the recommendations as set out, Chairman.
Thank you. If we can ask if there are any other members of the Cabinet wishing to speak. I think Councillor Patterson, you've indicated.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to come in on a few points. First of all, Chair, I can't agree with the comments from the local member that this is a white elephant. I don't believe that anyone would want to support, not want to support the report. They could see more and better jobs brought to Weardale, and I don't believe that the people of Weardale would not want to see a boost to their local visitor economy. This is something to be celebrated. As the portfolio holder for rural issues, I'm really excited about this, and I fully support this initiative, which will bring much needed private and public sector investment into County Durham and specifically into Weardale. This investment has the potential to make a real difference to our rural towns and villages, and it's important that we take advantage of the assets that are available in these areas and bring our local communities with us as we develop these plans. Doing nothing in our rural areas is just not an option. Yes, there's much needed work to be done to get the tracks and infrastructure up to standard, but I'm pleased to see that the report sets out details of the work to be undertaken and how the project will be subject to best value. Chair, this will be absolutely fantastic for everyone from Eastgate to Whitney Weir through to Bishop Auckland. It will bring in a much needed boost to the local visitor economy, and it will help secure future local employment opportunities, all of which is very welcome, particularly in these times. Chair, I will continue to work with the officers to identify and maximise the opportunities that exist in our rural areas, and I really look forward to further discussions on how we will be supporting our residents as we move forward with this particular project. Chair, I'm happy to support the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. If there is nobody else who wishes to speak, if we can come on to the recommendations which have been moved and seconded. If there is any dissent, please can you indicate that through the chat function. If there isn't, can I ask please if that report is agreed?
Agreed.
Chair.
Thank you. I can confirm therefore that report is agreed. That, I believe, completes the items of business that we have for this meeting. There is no, I've not been notified of any other business under item number 12, any other business. So that concludes the business for this meeting. Can I thank everybody for their participation and contributions this morning.